Welcome back. As part of efforts to ensure uninterrupted electricity in Nigerian universities through off-grid captive power plants, Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has inaugurated the solar hybrid power plant at the Alex Ekweme Federal University in Ebonyi State. It's the first of the energizing education program of the federal government implemented by the Rural Electrification Agency. The 2.8 megawatt power plant and 7.5 kilometer solar powered streetlights and renewable training center is expected to serve 7,700 students and 1,819 faculty staff who will have access to clean, reliable energy.
When it's time, you'll be formally...
Members and staff of the Rural Electrification Agency, management of the Alex Ekweme Federal University in Dufo-Alike, are here to witness something novel. It's the commissioning of the solar hybrid power plant at the institution.
His Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The Vice President and the Ebonyi State Governor make their way into the hall for the commencement of the day's event.
0.8 megawatts and will reduce the carbon...
The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of REA talks about the project and its deliverables.
The solar hybrid project being commissioned today has a total installed capacity of 2.8 megawatts and will reduce the carbon emissions dioxide savings of almost 8 million tons.
As the first out of the 37 federal universities to benefit from the energizing education program, the Vice Chancellor is most grateful that the days of epileptic power supply will soon be a thing of the past.
For a university which, as at February 2016, was not really connected to the national grid of public electricity supply and ran almost 100% on generators and fossil fuels, that is indeed something for which we have to be proud of our government and our country.
For the Ebonyi State Governor, his administration is committed to partnering the federal government to ensure that the state institutions benefit from the program.
We would like to partner with the federal government to expand this project so that the Core College of Education can also benefit.
There is optimism from the federal government that this project will provide students with a better chance at concentrating properly.
Increased access to modern quality education by providing adequate power supply to critical learning resources such as science laboratories, design and technology workshops, and information technology resources.
20 students were selected and trained in the maintenance of the project, an indication that the federal government is thinking beyond lighting up rooms, but lives.
Time for business news. Here's Anne Wawodo.
You First. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Amarachi. Welcome to Business News tonight. The federal government says it expects more modular refinery operators who obtain license to begin operations very soon. The acting director of the Department of Petroleum Resources, Mr. Ahmad Shakur, made this known today while inspecting a modular refinery, the Niger Delta Petroleum Resources facilities in Ahoda, Rivers State. According to a statement from the DPR, Mr. Ahmad Shakur says that he plans to drive the deepening of private refinery initiative in the country by providing the necessary collaboration with prospective investors. The NDPR was granted license to operate 1,000 barrels per day of modular diesel stripping plant by the DPR in 2012, as well as approval to construct for expansion, which will increase refining capacity to 6,000 barrels per day in 2017. MTN Nigeria has asked the Nigerian Tax Tribunal to rule on whether the company should pay corporate tax on a 330 billion naira fine. That's about $1.1 billion. The telecoms giant said it requested the judicial review after the Federal Inland Revenue Service disagreed with the company's accounting treatment of the fine as an operating cost. The company says that it is now waiting the tribunal's decision, which will set a precedent for how penalties are treated by companies registered in Nigeria. MTN Nigeria, which is a subsidiary of South Africa's MTN Group, was originally fined 1.04 trillion naira for failing to deactivate more than 5 million unregistered SIM cards, but it negotiated a reduced fine to clear its path for the listing on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And talking about Nigeria's stock exchange, the market has failed to sustain the second rebound recorded this week as major high-valued stocks fell to sell pressure at the close of business today. Let's hear more from BC Adebayo.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. A day after the positive start to the month of August, the NSE's all-share index fell to negative territory, down 0.43%, as investors wasted no time to book profits on the shares of MTN Nigeria. The telecoms giant and NSE's second most capitalized equity dropped by 1.59%, as induced sell pressure pushed its share price lower to 127 naira, while key components of the consumer goods, banking and insurance sectors contributed to the 58 billion naira value lost today. On the other hand, volume of shares traded today increased by 64.3 million units compared to Thursday's session to over 161.65 million in over 3,000 transactions, and that was led by the shares of MTN Nigeria, Zenith and Access Bank. The price table recorded 17 gainers and losers apiece, with the share price of CNI Leasing, Japol and Trans Nationwide Express as top three advances, up 10% each, while Continental Reinsurance recorded the highest price drop of 9.35%. And that's it on the Stock Market Report. I am BC Adebayo.
Thanks a lot, BC. Well, it's a similar picture across the world. The United States, Europe and Asia have ended today deeper in the red amid reports that China will take countermeasures if the U.S. puts more tariffs on imports. Let's see how they all ended at the close of business. And that's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. Have a wonderful weekend. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Amarachi.
You First. First Bank.
Time for news on the foreign scene. Here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Good evening from the Channel's newsroom here in London. There are fears of a new arms race after the United States formally withdrew from a key nuclear treaty with Russia. The Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty was signed by US President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev in 1987. It banned missiles with ranges between 500 and 5,500 kilometers. But Moscow and Washington have accused each other of violating the agreement in recent years amid increasing tensions. Talks to explore the concept of a new deal, which would limit nuclear arms that could eventually include China, took place last month, but no progress has yet been made between the two countries.
I'm concerned about rising tensions between nuclear-armed states. The Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty, the INF, is a landmark agreement that helps stabilize Europe and end the Cold War. When it expires tomorrow, the world will lose an invaluable break on nuclear war, and this will likely heighten, not reduce, the threat posed by ballistic missiles.
Meanwhile, NATO has agreed ways to deter Russia from launching a new medium-range missile capable of a nuclear strike on Europe, saying its response would be measured and only involve conventional weapons.
NATO will respond in a measured and responsible way to the significant risks posed by Russia's SSC-8 system. We have agreed a package of measures to ensure NATO's deterrence and defense remains credible and effective. But we will not rush to implementation or make any rash moves.
Japan will remove South Korea from its list of trusted trade partners, deepening a bitter row between the two countries. South Korean protesters held a rally in Seoul against the decision to remove the country from Tokyo's list of easy trade countries on Friday. The decision to strike South Korea off its so-called whitelist puts fresh trading restrictions on the country. Earlier, the South Korean finance minister said they plan to take steps to drop Japan from whitelist countries with fast-track export status. The escalating dispute has been fueled by diplomatic tensions over compensation for wartime labour. Sudan's military councils say they've detained 9 soldiers for their role in the El Obeid killings. A spokesman for the military council said that 9 officers from the Rapid Support Forces were dismissed and detained in connection with recent violence in the cities of Omdurman and El Obeid. It was also announced that the governor of North Kordofan state and its Security Council will be held accountable for the killings. Hundreds of thousands of Sudanese took to the streets in response to the killings of 4 students in El Obeid on Monday. Envoys of the United States, South Korea and Japan have met to discuss North Korea's latest missile test. The meeting, which took place on the sidelines of the Southeast Asia Forum in Bangkok, was designed to consider ways to restart talks between the US and North Korea. It's after the state fired missiles for the 3rd time in 8 days, a series of launches that analysts say are designed to improve military capabilities and pressure the United States and South Korea as they seek to restart denuclearization talks. The Saudi Arabian government has announced that women will be able to travel abroad without approval from a male guardian. It comes after high-profile attempts by women to escape their guardians, despite a string of reforms, including a historic decree last year that overturned the world's only ban on female motorists. Rima Bandar al-Saad, Saudi Arabia's first female ambassador to the United States, also confirmed the report in a social media post. It was unclear when the order will take effect. A wildfire which burned nearly 500 acres of land has set fire to a pallet yard in San Diego. Flames up to 40 feet high and plumes of black, billowing smoke were seen from miles away as thousands of people were evacuated from the local area. According to the fire department, the blaze has not so far burned any structures or caused any deaths. And finally, a light aircraft has been filmed landing on a road in Washington state before being pulled over by police. Clint Thompson was on patrol when he saw the single-propellered KR-2 plane flying over his car. The officer made a U-turn and followed the plane, which somehow managed to land in the center of State Route 7 in Spanway, south of Seattle. The police officer caught up with the vehicle after it stopped at traffic lights and, unsurprisingly, wanted to talk to the pilot. It turned out the plane had suffered a fuel system malfunction.
I thought from a far distance it was a remote control plane. As it continued going north, it got bigger and bigger and bigger to the point of, okay, that's really close to the ground. I think he's trying to land it on State Route 7. I see him getting closer and closer to the ground. The wheels hit the ground, kind of wobbles a little bit. He was able to hit the brakes to bring it to a stop in the center turn lane.
And that's your international news around the world in 5.
Back home, the 43 ministers designate confirmed by the Senate on Tuesday will undergo a retreat before their inauguration and assignment of portfolios. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, says the incoming ministers are expected to study some government documents in order to be conversant with the federal government's policies and programs before they resume work. According to the SGF, the ministerial retreats would hold between August 15th and 16th, while the documents required would be made available to them on Tuesday. The SGF was, however, silent on when the ministers designate will be inaugurated. Still ahead on the news at 10, Swart Baxter resigns as head coach of South Africa after more than 2 years in charge of the senior national team. We'll have more in sports news. Stay with us.